Hi, I'm Dr. Charlie Menghini. I'm President Emeritus at Vandercook College of Music in Chicago. And it's a real pleasure for me to have this opportunity to be with you virtually at the Iowa Bandmasters Spring Conference. You know, we had hoped that we could do this in person, but COVID continued to get in the way. And then I had hoped to be able to do a live virtual presentation with you. But recently, my wife had been diagnosed with some health issues. And we find that we're going to need to be on an airplane on Thursday evening when this program was supposed to be scheduled. So I appreciate the folks at Iowa for understanding and for allowing me to record this and to share it with you. So I hope that you're going to get something out of this. It's a lot of fun. And we're going to get going here with keeping the drive alive. You know, it doesn't matter if we're teaching face-to-face, we're teaching during COVID. You know, one of the things that we all have to deal with is just how do we keep ourselves motivated? How do we keep our energy up? How do we keep bringing our best to the classroom every day? I mean, you know, this is not a sprint. Teaching is not a sprint. Teaching is a marathon. And how do we do it year after year after year after year to bring our best to the classroom? How do we keep that drive alive? You know, because there's a problem with it, right? I mean, there's a problem in all of our situations, and this problem is universal. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. This is the problem, isn't it? And I've done extensive research to determine what this is, and I think you're going to agree with me. The problem is we're stuck between the idiots that make the decisions and the morons that won't follow our instructions, right? If people would be reasonable and just do it our way, life would be so much better. But for some reason, we just can't get people to listen to what we're trying to tell them. And that's just the way it is. You know, we got to understand that. And so when we're in those situations, whether we're stuck between the administration and us or the students and us or whatever it is, you know, we got to find a way that we can kind of frame it. We can put it in perspective and we can continue to do what we do, right? So the solution that I've come up with are a series of axioms to help us keep the drive alive. These are things that I like to think about. These are things that I refer to. These are things I try to remember when those situations come up and I feel like I'm in the middle. I feel like there's pressure on me. I just got to kind of frame it in such a way that I can understand it. So I've come up with these axioms to help us keep the drive alive. So let's take a look at them. The first one is it's a journey. It's not a destination. I don't want to get to the end of the road. You know, people in our profession like Frederick Fennell, they've gotten to the destination. Those teachers that have been with us many years and now they're deceased, they got to the destination. You're on a journey. Enjoy the journey. You know, me, I'm retired now. I'm on the other side of the hill, you know, the proverbial hill. You young people, you're going up the hill. All you can see is blue sky. You know, you'll stand for anything. Me, I'm on the other side of the hill, man. I'm going down. All I can see is dirt. I'm going kicking and screaming right now, right? It goes so fast. So along the way, take time. Look at those little things, those little successes, and take a moment and really, really enjoy them. Don't be in such a hurry to get to the end. Trust me, enjoy the journey. We got to learn from nature, those organisms that adapt, survive. You know, when everything was going great and COVID hit, guess what? We had to adapt our teaching styles. We had to go from person to virtual. Some of us went to hybrid. There have been all different kinds of things going on, but we had to adapt. And knowing that, guess what? When things get back to the new normal, things are going to continue to change. And as things continue to change, we need to continue to adapt. And if we do that, we're going to find that we're going to survive just really, really great. You know, our job is like moving a cemetery. We do it one body at a time. We teach one note at a time. We teach one kid at a time. I mean, we do things one at a time. I wish we could just kind of have some magic dust and go poof, it's all done. No, it doesn't happen that way. We do things one at a time. That's the same way it is in moving a cemetery. And we got to remember that it's kind of like church. People come to us when they need something, right? You go to church when you want to get married or buried, when you have a crisis or a christening, that's when you go to church. And if the experience you had was of your liking, if you enjoyed the experience, there's a good chance you might come back for more. The same thing is true when someone comes to you, whether it's a student, a parent, an administrator, they want something from you. If they have a good experience with you, guess what? There's a chance that they may come back. There's a chance that they may support your activities. So we got to remember, when people come to us for something, when they need something, that's our opportunity to show them what we're about and what we offer. It's really a great chance we have to show them the benefits of our music program. Don't forget the golden rule. Boy, that's an easy one, isn't it? It's an easy one to say. It's the hardest one to ever put in practice. You know, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. When someone comes to you with a problem, flip the switch. If you had a problem and you went to somebody, how would you like to be treated? You know, during my years as president at Vandercook College of Music, I had many faculty members that came and they had an issue with this or that. I had students come and they had an issue with this or that. And I would always ask them, if the shoe was on the other foot, if someone had an issue with you, how would you want them to handle it? Would you want them to come to the president? Or would you want them to just come to you and say, hey, you got a minute? You got to help me understand this because I'm missing the point here. You know, I don't understand. I wish you'd tell me because I really, you know, I really want to make this right. It's the golden rule. That's what we do. We do unto others the way we'd have others do unto us. You know, we got to dry the doors. Nobody asked us to lead. You know, this comes from a story from my father way back when. My dad was about 85. We lived in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I was in Chicago at the time, and my wife and I went up to see my parents for Easter. And of course, what do you do for your parents when they're elderly? They got everything they need. You know what they want? You're going to give them your time. And my father liked a clean car. And of course, those winters in the Midwest, man, those cars get filthy. You know, there's salt and stains and all that sort of stuff on it. So I said to my wife, you know what we're going to do for Easter? We're going to go wash my father's car. It was a brilliant suggestion. And we went down and we put a bunch of quarters in there, and that machine went around and around in the car, and the lights went off and the bells and the whistles and all that cool stuff. And every time that thing went around the car, boy, my head got a little bit bigger. You know, I'm going like, man, what a great son he has. Man, he's got the best son in the world, you know? So we finished at the car wash. We drove on back up to our house, and there's a carport, and I pull the car into the carport. My father gets out of the back seat, and he's got macular degeneration, can't see worth beans. But he grabs this towel and he pitches a perfect strike and hits me up the side of the head with it, you know? And I knew right where this was going, folks. And I started laughing. And the one thing you never want to do to an elderly person is laugh, because they don't know that you're laughing with them. They think you're laughing at them. And my father, in his Italian temper, really got upset. And he goes, dry the damn doors. They'll freeze. And I'm drying the doors and I'm still laughing. And the more I'm drying the doors, the more I'm laughing. And the madder he gets. And after a while, he said, listen, I never asked you to wash my damn car. If you don't want to do the job right, leave the damn car dirty. And I thought about that after, and I said, my God, what a great metaphor that is, you know? I mean, nobody ever asked me to lead. Nobody came to me and tried to recruit me to be a music teacher. It was a decision I made, you know? It's a decision you made. You may have made it in 7th grade, high school, college, whenever, but you're the one that decided to be a music teacher. And if you're going to do the job, we got to do the job right, which means sometimes we got to put in some extra time and do some things that, well, maybe we don't really want to do at the time, but that's what we have to do. We have to dry the doors. When we put ourselves in a leadership position, we got to do things the right way. You know, success lies in our ability to sustain, to keep the passion alive. And what is it in your life that allows you to keep your passion alive, that keeps you upbeat? What is it? You know, is it spending time with your family? Do you have a pastime? Do you have a sport you do? You work out? I mean, reading a book, part of a civic organization. I mean, we all got to figure out what that is, because you know what? These are jobs, folks. These are not life sentences. So what we have to do is we have to find that balance, and our balance points are all different as teachers, but we got to find those things that allow us to kind of get our batteries recharged and to keep our passion going. That's where our success is. If we can sustain our passion, guess what? We're going to be having a great time as a career teacher in our 5th year and our 50th year. If we're having a good time, you also got to tell your face. My nephew one time said, Uncle Charlie, he said, are you having a good time? And I said, well, yeah, Mike, I am. And, you know, I'm one of those people that I'll start thinking about something and I won't be smiling. He says, well, if you're having a good time, Uncle Charlie, why don't you tell your face once in a while? And I started laughing and I thought about it, you know, and man, our nonverbal communication, our nonverbal language screams volumes. You know, when you walk into a classroom with your kids, do you smile? When you walk into a meeting, do you smile? I mean, what's your nonverbal communication? What's your nonverbal communication right now as you're watching this video? You know, we got to remember that if we're having a good time, we need to tell our face. We need to find out what we're projecting because we're always communicating something. And that nonverbal communication is really, really important. We don't want to go on a diet. We want to become a professional eater. You know, I've probably lost 25, 30,000 pounds in my life. You know, I keep going on a diet and I keep gaining weight back. And, you know, it's one of those kind of things. It's like we go to a convention when they used to have conventions and exhibits, and man, there's a new tuner, there's a new metronome, there's a new this, there's a new that. It's going to make our band better. And guess what? It's going to make our choir better. Guess what? It's going to make our orchestra better. Guess what? You know, we take it, we buy it, we try it a couple of days, it doesn't work. I mean, I've never found a metronome that works. Have you? Right? And so what happens is we've got to become a professional eater. We've got to be one of those people that we got to figure out, this is what we do. These are our limitations. This is what I have in my toolbox, and this is what I don't. Because when we go on a diet, guess what? We can go off a diet, right? We can't do fad teaching. We got to stick to those tried and true things that we incorporate into what we do on a daily basis. Being a professional teacher, that's what we want to be. We got to make people feel special. You know, saying a person's name is the two words that just mean the most to them. We make people feel special. We say thank you. We say please. You know, when parents come up to us or somebody comes up and says, man, I really enjoyed the band performance. Make them feel special. You know, simply say, well, thank you very much. That means so much that you took the time to let me know. I really, really appreciate it. And what we do sometimes, somebody will say, oh, that was a great performance. You're like, well, you know, it wasn't really our best effort. God, you can't do that. You can never tell somebody that their opinion doesn't matter. So we want to make people feel special. You know, we got to say thank you. We got to do little things for them. You know, give them a piece of candy, smile at them, say, great job. You know, I mean, there's just so many ways to do that. When we make people feel special, we feel better about ourselves. And that's what really happens. And we start building this circle. You know, Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about that circle of influence that we want to create. When we make people feel special, guess what? We continually increase our circle of influence. All of a sudden, we become more important. Our programs become more important. And that all happens because we make people feel like they're important. And guess what? Those people are important. You know, people won't want the 3 things in life. You want them, you want this, and I want this. And we want them in this order. First, we want affirmation, and then we want inspiration, and then we want information. And our students are no different. Our students want to be affirmed first. They want to know that what they're doing with their time is something that's worthy. You know, I'm glad you're my student. You know, great job. Hey, I like that. Good job sitting up. I mean, they want to be affirmed. We want to affirm somebody. And once we affirm somebody, then we inspire them. And we can inspire them through the music that we play for them. We can inspire them through our words. We can inspire them through our being, but we go for inspiration. And once we affirm people and once we inspire people, then we can inform people. When I was teaching high school 100 years ago, I was having trouble getting kids from my junior high school to enroll in the high school program. And I would go over and I would work the junior high school band, getting ready for contest. And you know, they were a good band, but they had enough things that it took a lot of effort to just keep them going, you know? And I would go over and I'd just start working and teaching with them, and they would get better. But guess what? Those kids wouldn't sign up for band. And I was out with the junior high director one time, and he goes, Charles, can I be honest with you? I said, absolutely. I said, why aren't your kids being in my program? He says, because my kids don't think you like them. I said, what? He said, my kids don't think you like them. You come over and you just start working. He said, you don't tell them you enjoy them. You don't tell them that they're doing a great job. He said, you just tell them, hey, we got to fix this. We got to fix that. And as I thought about it, you know what? He was so right, because I didn't affirm them. I never affirmed them that what they were doing was good. And then I never inspired them. I never gave them that thing that they really looked to. I was just trying to deal with facts and figures. And guess what? The minute that I changed that, the minute I changed my approach, that I affirm people first, and then I try to inspire them second, then I inform them, guess what? They were signing up in droves. So make sure that when you're working with people, the first thing you do is affirm them and then try to inspire them, right? So that's something they know. I want to be like Mike, right? Michael Jordan. I want to be like Mike. And once you do that, you can inform them and they'll follow you to do anything. We want to be special by not being special. You know, the most special kid in your class is the one that sits there. They listen. When you say something, they write it down. They never talk when they're not supposed to. They never pack up their instrument early. They never come late to class. They never leave early. They never want anything special. But they're the most special kid that you have in your class. And they got to be special by not being special. They've played by the rules. They've colored inside the lines. And that's how we get to become being special in our faculty and in our schools. We attend faculty meetings. We sit in the front row. You know, we get our reports done on time. We understand how a purchase order works. When we get back to being able to use buses, we know what bus requests are, right? We're special by not being special. That's what we have in our class. Those kids that we will walk through fire for are the ones that are that way because they've built up so much in our emotional bank account by doing all the things we asked them to do. Not once did they ever single themselves out by being special. And that's why they're so special. And it works for us the same way. You know, we got to work with people from where they are and not from where you are. And now as we get back from the pandemic and we're back with kids, guess what? We've got a lot of kids in our programs that are probably going to come back with a little bit of guilt that they haven't played as much as they should have, guilt that they haven't progressed as much. And we just got to understand that, like, you know, they're coming back at the level they are. We can't assume anything. We got to find out where they are, and we got to take them there, and we got to build them up step by step. It's really hard because, especially when you're a young teacher, you know, you assume that everybody in the world has played the Hindemith Symphony or Lincolnshire Posy or sang Carmina Burana or, you know, whatever it is. I mean, we assume that as a young person, and guess what? They just haven't had the life experiences we have. So we got to figure out what life experiences they have had and build on them. We got to work with people from where they are. You know, the game is played by those who show up. And following the pandemic, there are going to be students that are no longer in our programs. We don't know why, but they're not there. They may not have re-signed up. Again, they may not feel that they're up to the challenge. And what, you know, we got to be concerned with those people. But when class is in session, when the game is on, we got to work with those kids that are there. We can never take time and worry about the ones who aren't there. Because when we spend time worrying about those who are not there, we're telling those who are there that they don't matter. So focus your energies on those sitting in the chairs in your classrooms. I used to love when there were field trips and kids were gone from my band class, because it just gave me an opportunity to just make that day the funnest day in band ever. And then those kids that missed band would talk to their friends and say, like, so what I missed today in band? Like, oh man, we had the best time in the world. You know, the game is played by those who show up. We got to remember that not everybody likes bananas, right? Not everybody's going to like us. There are people that don't like us. Doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make us a bad person. But not everybody likes bananas. You know, you go into a store and the bananas are sitting there. And if you don't pick them up, they just sit there. They don't go like, "Ooh, pick me, pick me." You know, they don't get upset. They just sit there. And guess what? In our day-to-day activities, there's going to be people who don't like us. And the reason that they don't like us is because they've never had the opportunity to get to know us. Because I'm convinced if people really get to know everybody, we're pretty much going to be able to like everybody in that process. So when somebody blows you off, when somebody shares some way in their own way that they don't like you, you can't let it change them. You know, I mean, if somebody doesn't like you, that should not influence the fact of whether or not you like them. And that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to just allow somebody to go like, okay, I'm going to allow you to be who you are. And guess what? You're going to have to allow me to be who I am. And I'm going to choose to like you. And if you do that long enough, guess what? People are going to start liking bananas. They're going to start liking you. Make a lot of mistakes once. You're going to try things. You're going to try new things. Coming out of the pandemic, you're going to try new teaching things that you did during the pandemic that you want to put in your day-to-day work. Try them. Make a lot of mistakes once. You know, that's how we learn. We learn by making mistakes. When we figure out what happened, we figure out what not to do, and then we give it a whole nother shot. You know, people don't get burned out in life. They just forget to refuel. And, that goes back to finding your passion. What's your passion? You got to keep the fuel coming back in the tank here. Because if you keep getting the fuel coming back in the tank, that's what? That fire will go forever. So figure out what it is that you have to refuel with. When I was teaching, I loved coming to conventions. I loved seeing my buddies. I loved going to festivals. I loved being in those situations where I was around my colleagues, and we could kind of get together and talk and reminisce and commiserate and do all of those kinds of things. And it just kind of was one of those things that really helped me fire up. And I think that's something that we all have to do. We got to figure out how to refuel, keep ourselves going. Sometimes we got to walk away from it. Sometimes we got to do something different, go out to dinner, go for some exercise, read a book, listen to a program. We got to do something, right? But that's what we want to do. And if we do that, then we won't get burned out. If we do the same old stuff over and over, we have no new things coming into what we're doing or why we're doing it. Guess what? Then the tank gets empty pretty quick. And that's when burnout sets in. So don't get burned out. Just keep refueling the fire, and man, you'll be good to go for the long haul. Remain upbeat, right? Remain upbeat. That is a choice. I am going to be upbeat. I'm going to wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror and go like, today is going to be a good day, right? I'm going to remain upbeat. I'm not going to let anything put me down today. And if it does, I'm just going to kind of flush it, right? And that's something that we have to tell ourselves, that I got to remain upbeat. I got to bring my best energy to the game. It's really simple, isn't it? Just to say, remain upbeat. Try that. I'm going to be upbeat today. I'm going to do something that's going to make me feel good. I'm going to do something for others that's going to make them feel good. I'm going to be upbeat. It's going to be positive. I'm going to put a positive spin on everything I do today. And if you do that, you will be amazed at the success you have. Remaining upbeat. I strongly recommend it. Don't just read the book, live it. I read the book, Rock Hard Abs. And if anybody knows me, I'm about 20 pounds, 30 pounds overweight, right? That book, Rock Hard Abs, just didn't work, right? I read the book. I even did a sit-up once. Guess what? I didn't live the book. We know what it is that we're supposed to do, but we just can't read it and do it. We've got to live it. I'm sure that you've attended many wonderful presentations during this time and at other conventions where we've gotten great information. We've gotten great advice. We've gotten great ideas. We've gotten great suggestions. Guess what? We need to live those. We need to take those and go like, I'm going to try that. I'm going to put this into what I do, and I'm going to do it every day. I'm going to work to live the book. And when I live the book, guess what? Things start happening. So don't just read the book, live it. The world isn't perfect, but it is correct. Boy, you can say that 52 times because the world isn't perfect. The world is a mess right now, isn't it? But guess what? The world has always been a mess. The world, when I was a kid, I remember my parents go like, man, I would never want to be a kid now. I hear people my age go like, oh, I just pity my poor children about where the world's going. It just has always been that way. The world isn't perfect. There's too many people in it, and people aren't perfect. But it is correct. It is the way it's supposed to be. There's got to be a reason why we've gone through this coronavirus. There has to be a reason for it. I'm not sure what it is, but guess what? It was supposed to happen. It happened. That's the way it is. And we just got to learn to deal with it. Because I think if we obsess with it, if we obsess with things that we can't control, then guess what? It just isn't going to work for us. And we're going to get depressed. We're going to become negative. We're going to be in a bad mood all the time. So we just got to understand, hey, it may not be perfect, but it's the way it's supposed to be. We got to be true to ourselves. You know what a good music program is. You know what it is to be a good music teacher. You know how to play good music. Be true to yourself. When you're laying in bed and the only thing you can hear is the beat of your heart and just quiet in time, and you're thinking through what's going on, you know what's the right thing to do. Trust yourself. Be true to yourself. And when you find out that you'll do that, you'll find out that you'll be happy, and you'll find out that you'll be a success. You don't have to worry about other people affirming what you're doing. You don't have to worry about other people telling you you're doing a good job. Sometimes you know you're doing a good job. Sometimes you know you're doing the right thing. You've got to be true to yourself. We don't need to read lists to tell us what's good music to play with our ensembles. We know what's good music to play with our ensembles. We know what's good music to sing with our ensembles. We know that. And sometimes that music that we sing might be a little popular. It might be a little light. It's okay, because we know what's best for our schools and our communities and our kids. And when we do that, that's when we're being true to ourselves. So along the way, right, trust yourself. We got to do whatever it takes to get the job done. Sometimes that means working on weekends. Sometimes that means coming in early or staying late. But sometimes we just got to do whatever it takes to get the job done, because it takes a little bit longer. But when we do that and it's done the right way, guess what? That really makes us happy, gives us a great sense of something that we've really done something positive. So whatever it takes, we got to get it done. Because, right, if you don't have time to get it right in the first place, where are you going to find time to get it right in the second place? So we got to do whatever it takes to get a job done right the first time. Don't lose your sense of humor. There's always something funny that you can look into a situation and laugh at, even when it's just terrible. Find a way to laugh. When you're back with your kids and the kids drop a mute, instead of hollering at them, instead of getting all freaked out, just stand back and laugh. Just laugh. And they'll look at you and they won't know what's going on. But if you just don't lose your sense of humor. When you're listening to kids play and they don't play well and you just kind of chuckle, you just start laughing and you go like, oh man, I don't believe what I just heard, Billy. I mean, you are such a good player and I just heard that, man, what's going on? But it's a sense of humor, and when you have a sense of humor, it lets people know that you like them. Right? Now, you're not using your humor to intimidate them. You're not using your humor to demean them. You're just using your humor to look at a situation and just kind of make light of it. So don't ever lose your sense of humor. Find a way to smile. There's a great story about the old legendary Bud Herseth, the principal trumpet of the Chicago Symphony. And Mr. Herseth had a great sense of humor. And they were in the middle of a concert, and a very quiet time in the concert. And Mr. Herseth reaches over and he puts his mute in his trumpet bell, and the mute fell out onto the floor. This loud clanging sound. And Mr. Herseth gently bends over, grabs the mute, and hands it to the second chair player. And he had this big smile on his face. Of course, the second chair player took it, right? But it's just fantastic sense of humor that those people had. Don't lose your sense of humor. We got to remember, if we want to walk on water, we got to get out of the boat. You want to do new things and good things with your program, you've got to try things that are new, things that are different. And they may work and they may not work, but that's okay. But if you want to walk on water, you got to get out of the boat. You got to try new things. We got to learn to embrace dissonance. And man, there is so much dissonance in the world. We just got to learn to embrace it. You get that note that you got to call this parent and you go like, oh boy, this is going to be fun. Or I got to see the administrator about this. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. Embrace the dissonance. Embrace it. Know it's going to happen, and just don't push back. When you have to call that parent about that thing and you listen to them and you go like, first of all, thank you for reaching out to me. I really appreciate the fact that you took enough time out of your life to call me so that we could have this conversation, because I really, really appreciate it. And all you're doing when you embrace the dissonance is you work to diffuse the situation. Because when there's dissonance, people want pushback. And if you'll eliminate the pushback, then guess what? You're embracing the dissonance. And then all of a sudden it becomes consonance, doesn't it? It's like listening to music and you hear dissonance and dissonance and dissonance. And you keep working with it, and composers keep working with the dissonance. And after a while, that dissonance resolves, doesn't it? And it's the same thing with interpersonal communication. We just have to embrace it. We got to be a problem solver. That's what we do. We solve problems. I mean, we solve problems all the time. We solve the problems that the kids don't know what notes to play. They don't know the rhythms. They don't have their music. Their valves are stuck. Their pad is loose. They can't find their choral folder. They've got a problem with a broken string on their violin. I mean, that's what we do. We solve problems. And guess what? That's what we're good at. We're problem solvers. And we got to understand that comes with our job, that we're going to be a problem solver. So don't wait for there to be no problems, because if there's no problems, there's no job. All right. We got to learn the word good. Good is a good word. The word good will never get you into trouble, right? So if we're listening to like 3 or 4 kids play, 3 or 4 kids sing, and we start and we say, man, I hear you sing, and the child sings, you say, okay, very nice, good rhythm, good diction. I like your sense of pitch, good tone quality. You might want to use a little bit more breath support, but overall, that was very, very well done. You go to the next person and the person sings and you go like, good. And you go to the next person and they sing and you talk to them. And all of a sudden, that person that you just said good to, man, bells and lights are going off. It's like, well, wait a minute. Said all this about this person and said all this about this person. But to me, they just said good. You're getting the message across. Now, what does that child do? That child goes home and says, Mom, I want to quit music. Why? The teacher said I did good. And, well, I mean, this child did this and, they said this and this and this and said this and this, but when for me, they just said I did good. I want to quit. So I can just hear the parent call the administrator, right? Your administrator, hey, my child wants out of music program because your teacher said he did good today. No, you're just taking the ball right out of their hands. So the word good is a good word. The word good will never get you into trouble. So there are certain words and phrases that we can use in our teaching that will really help us through those situations, right? Because it sends a strong message. It may send a stronger message because those children are looking for praise. They're looking for compliments. They're looking for an attaboy. And when you just say good, you're basically acknowledging the fact that they participated. So try that. Think about that. And say the second thing that comes to your mind, because inevitably the first thing that comes to our mind will always get us into trouble, won't it? Yeah, that's kind of the way it is. Say the second thing that comes to your mind. Communication is inevitable. We're always communicating. We communicate in our written, we communicate in our verbal, we communicate in our nonverbal. Always be aware of the message that you're sending because communication is inevitable. That was tying back into, if you're having a good time, tell your face. Why? Because that's nonverbal communication. What your face is saying is communication. So just remember, you've always got to communicate. We ever heard that your silence is deafening? When you don't communicate, that silence is a communication in and of itself. So just be really, really aware. Always have your radar up on, okay, what am I communicating? What's the message? And we got to remember that communication is always interpreted from the part of the receiver. It's never interpreted from the part of the sender. So when you write an email or you send a text message, before you just hit that send button, read it. Say to yourself, okay, if I'm getting this, what is this telling me? Because sometimes what it reads and what you meant are not the same thing. Because you know what? There's no music in written stuff. When we talk to people, when they can hear our voice, they can hear the inflections in our voice. There's music there, isn't it? That communication becomes a lot easier when we can hear the music. But in written speech, there's no music there. In nonverbal communication, there's no music there. So really be careful about what you're communicating. We got to dance with them that brung you. Loyalty. Folks, we got to be loyal. Loyal to those people that have helped us along the way. Those people that brought us along in elementary school and middle school and high school and college. Those people that hired us for our jobs. We need to be loyal to them. And they always aren't going to get it right. And they always aren't going to agree with us. And they may not always do things that we totally agree with. But guess what? In the end, we have to be loyal. I see so many teachers that they've taken one too many methods classes in college and they come out and they know the way it should be. And then they get into the real world and it's not the way it should be. And the first thing that they do is that they start complaining about it. And when they do that, they're basically not being loyal to the people that hired them. My job when I got hired was to make the boss look good. That's my first job. I want that boss to go like, you know what? When I hired Menghini, man, that was the smartest decision I ever made. That was the best decision I ever made because I always worked to make that boss look good. That's what we should do. We have to be loyal to those people who are around us, our colleagues, our students, all of the people that have been a part of our life. We have to remain loyal to them. That's really important. When change happens, and change is going to happen, focus on the gain, not the loss. And it's just so easy. I hear the word change. It's like, when you go into a new situation, you're going to change things, right? And the kids go, right? Change is not a good word. We want to look at, enhance, enrich, do all those kinds of things. But there's going to be change. There's going to be change in schedules. There's going to be change in standards. There's going to be change happens. Focus on what you're going to gain from the change, not from the loss. And there's always going to be gives and takes when change happens. And if you can focus on the positive, that's really going to be a good thing for you. We understand that change is immediate, but growth takes time. Yeah, we can make a change right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to take hold. We have to continually work with it. We can change the way we do something. We can change our requirements for practice or our standards in rehearsal. We can make those changes today, but it takes time for that growth to happen. It takes time for those people to buy into it to really make that happen. So change is immediate, growth takes time. And change will occur when gentle pressure is continually applied. Just keep gently putting pressure on, right? Gentle pressure continuously applied. If you go in and you want to work on breath support, you start working on breath support and you continually work on breath support every day. And guess what? The breath support gets better. If you come in on Monday and talk about breath support and then you don't touch it again for 3 weeks, guess what? Your breath support ain't going to get any better. So change occurs when that gentle pressure is continuously applied. Just like life, the tree always grows to the sunshine. If you're the sunshine, the kids are going to grow to you. If you're that person, when the kids go into your class, you make them feel better. You give them energy. Guess what? Those kids are going to gravitate towards you. The tree always grows to the sunshine. Also, most overnight sensations take 10 to 15 years. Isn't that something? Starbucks started in 1971, 40 years ago. Most overnight sensations take 10 to 15 years. When you get into teaching, if you're in a situation, it's not going to change the first year. It's not going to change the second year. About the third or fourth year, you're going to start to see some changes. You're going to start to see progress. It's a matter of our continual investment. And those people that have had all of a sudden fantastic programs, they've worked very hard and they've invested an awful lot. We just have to be a little bit more patient, understanding that overnight sensations take 10 to 15 years. We got to be careful of the grass is greener syndrome, right? There's more greener grass on the other side of the fence because there's probably more fertilizer over there, right? If you want to deal with more fertilizer, you can have greener grass. So just be careful of that. Be careful of what you wish for. It might come true and you may not want to deal with it. I heard another way say the grass is greener because they got septic tank problems over there. So if you want to deal with septic tank problems, you can have greener grass too, right? The point is that sometimes we just got to really appreciate what we have and understand that it's the way it's supposed to be and we can make it better. But we can't be envious of the other situation because guess what? They've got their own set of problems that we have no idea what they're dealing with. We always got to have the next level. Oh, one of my favorite stories of all times. I was 18 years old and I was tending bar at a ski lodge in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. There was a guy there by the name of Ray Amicangelo. He had a little band, played on Saturday night. Ray and his brother Paul, who had perfect pitch. Ray had perfect pitch. And their cousin Fonzie was a barber. He played clarinet and cocktail drum. And I was like the town trumpet player. And it was a Saturday night and I was tending bar. And there wasn't many people at the ski lodge in the summertime, just a kind of a vacation spot. And he said, hey, you got your horn? I said, sure do, Ray. He said, go get your horn. So I went and got my horn. He says, you know the tune Satin Doll? I said, I kind of know it, Ray. And he said, well, let's play Satin Doll, guys. So we played Satin Doll and I tried to play the melody and I cacked on it. I was just freaking terrible. Got done. He grabs a piece of manuscript paper and man, he just wrote out the melody and he says, here, kid, go home and learn this. Man, I went home and I practiced. I had it nailed. Got there next Saturday night. It's about 11 o'clock. Again, there's not many people there. And Ray goes, hey, Chuck, you got your horn? Yeah, Ray, I do. It's in the car. Go get it. Yeah. So I go get the horn. He goes, you got Satin Doll? I says, yeah, Ray, I got it. So man, I played Satin Doll with him. I nailed it. Got done. He goes, yeah, man, good job. Yeah. He says, now what you want to do, he says, is you want to doodle. You want to put notes about a note below, extend this note, take this note back. He says, go home and practice the melody, Satin Doll. He says, but put some doodling in it. Okay. So I did that all week. Went back the next week, about 11 o'clock. Got your horn? Yeah. Go get it. Satin Doll. Boom. Played it, man. Put the doodles in there, played the melody, played the second chorus, all the doodles in there. He goes, yeah, man. Yeah. Good, man. Yeah. Yeah. He says, now what you want to do? He says, you want to put those doodles together. You put those doodles together, you start to create some ideas. He said, we call that improvisation. He says, go home and work on that improvisation. This went on for 30 years. No kidding. 30 years. I have a doctorate degree in music. I've played lead trumpet in the football band for the Kansas City Chiefs. I've played more weddings and bar mitzvahs and grass fires and laundromat openings than you'd ever want in your entire life. My niece is getting married. I go back to my hometown. Who's playing? Ray McAnsel. I walk in the door. Ray goes, "Hey, Chuck, you got your horn?" I said, "Yeah, Ray, I do. Go get it, man." So I got the horn. She goes, "Satin Dog Eyes." I played it, and I just wailed. I mean, I just wailed on it. Got done. He goes, "Yeah, man. This is really starting to happen for you." He says, "The next thing you need to do now is," and I just started laughing. You know what? I never arrived with Ray. Well, I did arrive. I arrived the first night when he gave me that piece of music, the Satin Doll, and he said, "Here, kid, go home and learn this." The point is that Ray always had the next level. He was happy with what you did, but here's this. Happy with what you did, now here's this. And he always had the next level. And even 30 years later, when I felt like I was really playing good, he always had the next level for me. That's the way it is in our teaching. When we're rehearsing a student, it gets done, we got to go like, okay, that was good. Now the next thing we have to do is this, or this will make it better, right? And just keep having the next level for our kids, because what it does is it continually raises the bar. It raises the bar for them. It keeps them engaged. It keeps them in search of, right? We're praising them and we're setting the bar at another level. Always have the next level in our teaching. You got to remember that you're only worth what you give away. You got to give away a lot of praise to kids. You're only worth what you give. You give your time. You give praise. You give accolades. Right? That's what we're worth. When people don't need us for anything, when we don't have anything to give them, then guess what? They don't need us for anything. So we're only worth what we give away. And that's what we have to do. We have to continually find things to give. We give affirmation. We give information. We give them smiles. We give them encouragement. We give them, praise. We give them wonderful experiences for them to take, whether it's a trip with our ensemble to a festival. We play great pieces of music with them, but we're only worth those things that we give to them. We have to remember that inside of every chunk of marble is a statue. Inside of every one of those kids, there's a great student. The question is, how good of a sculptor are we? Are we a good enough sculptor to start with that chunk of marble and just chip away the things we do in order to have that perfect student that we're looking for? And that's a lifetime career to be able to do it. But inside of every one of those kids, there's a statue there. We got to really work to see if we can do that as teachers. Whether we think we can or can't, we're always going to be right. So much of it is our mindset. We have to know that what we're doing is the right thing. And we can find it. We can get there. We got to remain positive. The first time that you become negative, guess what? It ain't going to happen. You're not going to do it. I love to play golf. If I tell myself, man, this is going to be a good shot, you're going to make a good swing, the ball's going to go where you want it to. Guess what? The ball normally goes where I want it to. If I stand there and go like, man, don't put it in the water, man, you're going to put it in the water. Guess what? The ball goes in the water. It's so much of a mental game. We've got to focus on the things that we can do. And when we think about the things that we can do, we are always going to be right. We got to remember it's a people business. It's all about people. It's just a people business. It may be teaching music, but we're teaching music to people. It's a people business. We got to be aware of those negative energy fields with people. There are certain people that walk around, man, they got a cloud on the end of their string. You say it's a beautiful day. They'll say, oh, it's too hot. You'll say, oh, isn't the sun gorgeous? I hate it. I don't like sun. I'd rather it to be a little bit cloudy. You say it's too cold. They say, oh, no, it's perfect. I like cold weather. You say it's too hot. Oh, no, it's too hot. You know what I'm saying? No matter what you say, they say the opposite. They have negative energy fields. We got to be aware of them. When you see them coming, acknowledge them and then get out of their way, right? Because you know what they'll do? They'll prey on you. They'll zap you. They'll attach themselves to you and they'll suck your energy right out of you. It's like putting a dead battery in a toy, right? You can put 3 new batteries in a toy and leave 1 dead battery in there. And guess what? That toy is going to die because that dead battery is going to suck the energy out of the others. So really beware of those negative energy fields in our life. Here's one for us. Let's learn the word no. No is a great word, isn't it? That's one that we don't remember very often as teachers. And sometimes we got to smile when we say no. It's like, no, I just can't do that. We just can't do that right now. No, right? Learn the word no. Teachers, sometimes we just can't remember to do that. Suspend judgment. Try to get all the facts and figures and everything in there before we just kind of, race the judgment on it. Sometimes you just got to wait. We just got to hold back, got to let the situation develop. We got to get all the evidence we can. And then we know the best course of action to do it. And that was something that I wrestled with all my time as a teacher. I just wanted to have it done and over with and put back. And the number of times if I had just waited a little bit, it would have almost resolved itself, right? So we got to work to suspend judgment. We got to remember that the job is a job. It's not a life sentence, folks. You have a choice. You can walk away from your job at any point in time. And you know what? There's plenty of jobs in the world right now. I can't think of a better one than being a teacher. I can't think of a better one than having the opportunity to share music with kids. But we got to remember that it's still a job. It's not a life sentence. We do it one brick at a time. We teach kids one at a time. We move that cemetery one body at a time. Mozart wrote his music one note at a time. It's one brick at a time. We got to know the difference between a problem and an inconvenience. You know, a problem. Somebody's dealing with cancer. That's a problem. An inconvenience. You know, I got stuck in traffic. They didn't get my coffee the way I wanted it to be done today. That's an inconvenience. Know the difference between a problem and an inconvenience, and don't confuse them. That'll help you a lot in this world. There's no right way to do a wrong thing. My father taught me that a long time ago. I can't rationalize myself out of something that I've done wrong. You know, there's just no right way to do a wrong thing. And if you do a wrong thing, then you have to apologize sincerely. And you just got to work not to do it. So, you know, some closing remarks. I just want to thank you again for having this opportunity to be with you today. Music teachers, man, you know, you're changing lives. You're doing some great things with your kids. You're doing things with your kids and their families and their communities and your schools, and they're not going to tell you enough. You got to tell yourself that. You got to know in your heart that you're making a difference. And you've just come off of one of the wildest years ever. I'm not sure when you were preparing to become a music teacher that they ever covered this in any of your method classes. What do you do when school shuts down for a year and all of a sudden you've got to run choir rehearsals and orchestra rehearsals and band rehearsals on Zoom? How do you do that? It was never covered in any method classes that I ever taught. And I'm sure none of the method classes that you did. But you know what? You are resilient. You found a way to get it done. And you found a way to get it done better than any other profession could. And I know that you did your best for your students. And I know that your students appreciate it. Oh, they probably didn't tell you. Oh, they probably didn't practice as much as they should have. But guess what? In the end, they really appreciate you and they know that you care for them. Now, there's going to be some kids that don't come back just because of the pandemic. And what you've got to do is you've got to reach out to them. You got to let them know that there's still a place for them in your program. You got to call their parents. You got to call them. You got to talk to those kids that are in your class and say, hey, you got to help me out here. We got to get some of those kids, your friends, back in band. You got to get your friends back in orchestra. You got to get your friends back in chorus. That's really, really important. You got to get a hold of some of the parents of students who are in your program and have them talk to the parents who are not in your program. And you got to lay out and say, hey, look, I know we've been away for a year. We're going to move slow. We're going to move cautiously, and we're going to get this program back to better than it's ever been. But that's something that you're going to have to do. You just can't accept the fact of what you got now, because it's going to take some work. It's going to take a lot of work coming out of this pandemic to get things back on track, to rebuild that culture, to develop those leaders that were lost along the way. But you can do it because you're music teachers. That's what you do. You create beauty out of incredibly bad sounds. You ever heard somebody sight read or sight sing something? Man, and go like, okay, well, we got a lot of work to do. Guess what? You just go back and you do it day after day, and you take a little piece and you work on this piece and you put it together. And after a while, you put together a beautiful performance. It's that way with music, and it's that way in recruiting kids. So I wish you the very, very best. You know, Robert Fulghum wrote a book, Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. If you've never read the poem, find the poem and read it. It's fantastic. But he's got this famous word. He says, flush, right? That's what we need to do in life. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we have to deal with. And every once in a while, we got to hit that flush button. We just got to let it go. We got to just let it get off of us. We got to start fresh. We got to start with clean water in the bowl, right? So when you have all those problems and all those things and all those pressures come up, every once in a while, just hit the flush button and let it go away and start over. Start that way with your kids. You know, your kids don't know they made mistakes. Flush, let it go. Let them start with a clean slate. Let yourself start with a clean slate. It'll make all the difference in the world. So flush. And then at the end, say please and thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be with you today. And please, if you have any questions or anything that I can do for you, get a hold of me at cmenghini@icloud.com. It's right there, cmenghini@icloud.com. I want to thank my friends at the Iowa Bandmasters Association, my friends at Hal Leonard for sponsoring this, and thank you for this opportunity to be with you. It's been a lot of fun. I hope one of these days we can do it again in person. Okay. So God bless you folks. You be well, and we'll see you down the road. Thanks.